Since we're stuck at level 50 for a while in AQ3D, I decided to put together this quick video. We're going to be going over the different builds in the game, but I'm going to be doing this as quick as possible using a website called AQ3Dtracker.com. The information in this video will be used from that website, so big shout out to them. This will require you hunting down some of these weapons on your own, but hopefully this video will help. If you guys enjoy this one, do me a favor and tap that like button, smash the subscribe, and hit the notification if you want to stay up to date with all of my content. Let's get started. We're going to be looking at 3 different builds: the defense build, the attack build, and the haste build. So let's start with the attack build first. For the attack build, I have the attack highlighted so that you can see what has the highest attack for weapons. Now, the blue name means that the items is Spellforged. The white names mean that they are not Spellforged. There are 4 different weapons that have the exact same attack power. However, the Awakened Necrotic Staff of Doom and the Shadow Reaper of Doom have a 10% increase of attack due to their Spellforged capabilities, but a 20% health reduction. So you do have a punishment with the increased attack power, whereas in the Gavel of Smashing and the Raw Gavel of Smashing have the same attack power, but without that 10% boost and the 20% minus. So it's really your call which one you prefer going for. Now, as for ease of access, the Gavel of Smashing, the Raw Gavel, might be easier to obtain simply because these are drops compared to these, which are craftable and you have to go through long consuming quests. But the option is yours. Next on the attack build is the helms, and we have multiple different ones that have the exact same attack, and that is all of these 6. And the best out of all of these, in my opinion, is the Hasty Radiant Halo of the Sun Warrior, and that is because it has a haste buff. That is its Spellforge. This is also not too shabby, but I still prefer the haste buff over top. And if you can't go for that one, then you've got the other options. Perhaps you've already got the Visage of the Dread Runner or the Helm of the Sacred Wind. For the armor, you have the Kimono and the Chitin still being the highest. However, you do get the Azercrest Armor Alpha as well as the Azercrest Armor Beta, which are other options as well. But you will be taking a hit in the crit department, so it depends. If you want more critical, you'd be going for one of those. The Plate of the Sacred Wind or the Plate of the Dread Runner is another option. The reason why is because these are power level 1060, not 1040. For the shoulders, you've got 2 options: the Paladin of the Sacred Wind or the Paladins of the Dread Runner, because these are basically both the same items stat-wise. For the gloves, the Ancient Paladin Gauntlet is still up there, as well as the Clogres Grips and the Azercrest Gloves, which I did not know were up in that category. However, another good option is the Gauntlet of the Sacred Wind as well as the Gauntlet of the Dread Runner, and this is because of the power level being 1060, and I mean this does reflect in the stats as well with the incredible haste. Now for the cape, there is actually no attack power, so I decided to go for the haste over top of crit and evasion. This would be putting the Cape of the Sacred Wind as well as the Cape of the Dread Runner at the very, very top of this list, and these are definitely the ones I would be recommending for your cape. A belt is another one that does not have any attack, so I went with haste again, and that would be the Belt of the Sacred Wind or the Belt of the Dread Runner. These would be the best options. Lastly, for the boots, again, there are no boots that have an attack power, so I did go for the haste, which does leave you with the Greaves of the Sacred Wind. Now, this is a Spellforged item, and if you don't have this, I would highly recommend it. It makes combat so much better. Next is the defense build. Now this is going to be using health and armor as its base stats. So the first item, which really surprised me, was the Blade of Bemost. With a whopping 5,200 health, this has a lot of health. Another option would be the Gilded Fixer with a 3,600. Now this does take a whopping hit of HP, but it would be a lot easier to obtain. Now, the other options would be the Blinding Starlight of Destiny, also taking a whopping hit on the health, but with a massively increased attack and crit. This would be a better option. Not to mention, it's also Spellforged, or you've got the Lance Scorn, which is another option, seeing as how it's basically the same, just with different Spellforge. When it comes to the helmet, you have 3 different options, and I would probably go for the Clawgra's armors because they have the same armor as the Skeletal Crowned Visage of the Deep. However, they also have the extra health. For the armor, there's not much competition. The Ancient Paladin armor takes the cake with a 4,000 HP as well as the 3,200 armor. Now, the Azercrest armor alpha does match the armor, but has a whopping low HP compared to the Ancient, so it does have a lot more attack though, but it depends on what you're going for. For the shoulders, you do have several different options, and probably the best out of the 3 would be the Title Caretaker's Beacon, simply because it is a Spellforged and has the exact same armor. However, if you're going for more health and armor, then you would want to go with the Ancient Paladin Pauldrons with 600 HP and almost 2,000 armor. This would be the better choice for having overall health and armor. For the gloves, since there was no armor option, I went with haste being the base stat, and the best one by far is the Ancient Paladin gauntlets, because this has a really good health, with the other one, the next ones, being the Gauntlet of Sacred Wind, which, because they have a better power level and higher crit and haste, might be a better option for some of you. For the cape, there were no health or armor options, so evasion was the next best choice, and you've actually got 2 good selections right here: Cape of the Sacred Wind as well as Cape of the Dread Runner, seeing as how they have the same stats. For the belt, you have 3 different options that I would like to mention, the first of which is the Clawgra's Waist. Now, the reason why is because their armor is 2,800. However, the evasion takes a hit. If you want to focus more on the evasion, then you might be looking at the Belt of the Sacred Winds. This has a higher power level and has really good evasion as well as not terrible armor, so it might be a better trade-off. And the Belt of the Dread Runner has the exact same stats, so depending on if you want more armor or more evasion, you'd be going for one of these choices. For the boots, if you're prioritizing the armor, then you'd be looking at the Ancient Paladin boots or the Clawgra's Trotters. However, if you want the best boots currently available in the game, I would be urging you to go for the Greaves of the Sacred Wind, because not only does this have decent armor and great evasion, it also has more haste, and the Spellforge also increases the haste, so it's just definitely worth it. Last but not least, the haste build. And you can have a lot of haste. The first item you would need to do this would be the Doom Fury Cursed Blade of the Fallen. Now, this doesn't have amazing attack, but it does have amazing haste. For the helm, there's really no other option besides the Hasty Radiant Halo of the Sun Warrior, since this does increase the haste. Armor really doesn't impact the haste in any way, so if you want, you could just use the Plate of the Sacred Wind because of the higher crit, or maybe if you want a higher attack, you could go for one of these things, but again, none of these really impact the haste. My go-to would probably be the Plate of the Sacred Wind. Shoulders is another item that does not impact the haste in any way, so I would just go for any of the ones up here, the Pauldrons of the Dread Runner or the Pauldrons of the Sacred Wind. For the gloves, you've only got two options and a reskin: the Gauntlets of the Sacred Wind or the Gauntlets of the Dread Runner, which is a reskin of the Sacred Wind. Either one of these are great because they have amazing haste. For the capes, you have 2 options as well: the Cape of the Sacred Wind or the Cape of the Dread Runner. For the belt, you also have 2 options: Belt of the Sacred Wind or Belt of the Dread Runner. Last but not least, the boots, and this is an obvious choice: the Greaves of the Sacred Wind, and also with the Spellforged, it also increases the haste, so hands down is the best item for haste builds. And there you go. Hopefully this has been informative for you. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you made it this far into the video, post the secret word RED into the comments. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys in the next one.